All right, let's commence our webinar. Today we'll talk about security and no code. We'll cover the following topics. First, how to set up authorization for your web app. Next, what is the user session? Then we'll have a look how to configure user-based security on the API layer and then on the web app. As a bonus, I'll show how to set up bearer authorization on API. That's not necessary for directional web applications generally, but there are some external systems that require bearer authorization. So I'll show how to deal with it. And the second part would be the speech of Dmitry, Directual partner. He is leading the agency which develops the applications for the clients. All right. For the beginning, let's create a new app. Let's call it Demo Security. We'll choose the regular blank app, the basic template, and the pro trial. So that is a generous trial, a month just for $1. All right, let's have a look at the template. We'll go to the web app tab and click to the URL. Here we are, the very basic template with authorization. We could see that on the second tab, general setting, the authentication authorization is turned on. So if we turn it off, we'll see that the sign in button disappears. All right, turn it on back, and let's have a look at the database. Pay attention to the data structure. App users, web user, it stores the objects which are the users of your app. Now let's create one. ID would be login. Usually it's a phone or an email. I would use email pavel@directual.com. And the password. Password is stored encrypted. So I could use, say, 123, but I need to convert it to hash encrypted. By default, we use MD5 hash, but you could change it in the security settings. All right, I created an object and now I could log in into the app. So I go here, sign in, login, 123, password. All right, here we are. I just have logged in. I could have a look at the profile page, fill, say, the first name, last name. There is also a form for changing the password, setting up notifications, etc. All right, here is the authorization. The first item is covered. The second, what is the user session? As soon as I'm logged in, I get the user session from the authorization API, and that session is stored in the system data structure named user sessions. Here is it. So I'm using that session. That session is stored in my browser. So if I close the application and open it again, I would be logged in because the user session is stored in the browser. But if I delete that session, I would be logged out. If you want to log out your users, say in a day or two, you could create a scenario with a delay, 24 hours, for example, which deletes the session. All right, if I sign in again, Pavel@directual.com, 123, the new session appears here. All right, so if we click at the session, we'll see the web user, which is connected with that web session. All right, next, let's have a look how to configure user-based security on the API. First and foremost, let's create a data table which stores some data. I'm creating the new data structure. Let it be, I don't know, books, like in our one-on-one crash course. I will configure the table, for example, just for the beginning, that would be one field, title, type of string, title. All right, now let's create a couple of books, War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, and the Bible. All right, 2 objects. And then I couldn't have an access directly to that data table without API. I need an API as a kind of a gateway to my data. So I could configure it from the API tab or directly from the database tab. Integration system. So I created a system data structure. I would like to move it to another folder, just to the root folder. All right, here is it. Endpoints, create new endpoint. That would be endpoint for reading the data, for getting the data. Get books, get books. And that setting is important. If I choose that API would be public, that means that everybody on the internet would have an access to my data. Doesn't matter if he or she is logged in or not. So let's, for the beginning, choose public endpoint and choose 2 fields available for reading. All right, here's our endpoint. We could test it out right from here. Get, and we see that 2 objects that we just have created here, they're available. Let's go to the web app tab, our home page, that one. I would delete that text, which is the part of the template, and add a table. Just recollecting that reminding that the Directual UI builder is operating large components such as table, form, cards, etc. So here we are configuring the table, and most of the components need API endpoints to get the data. And here we are selecting the endpoint that we just have created, get books, table title books. And here we are configuring the table. We don't need ID, just title. All right. Yep, great. The table with 2 objects. You see that we are logged in and we see that table. If we logged out, we would still see the table because we created a public endpoint. We could change that setting right from here, edit endpoint, and let's make it non-public, available for all authorized users, all signed in users. All right, save the component and let's check it out. I have no permissions, so that is the basic rule of the security. If you make the endpoint public, everybody on the internet would have an access to it. So if you don't want your data be available for everybody, make it not public. Let's sign in another time. I'll add directional code 1, 2, 3. All right, now I have an access to the data 1 and 2. So that is the simplest user-based security. We configured it on API. Next, I would love to pay attention to the rules of the user-based access on the web pages. They're not completely secure because they're just the settings of the UI. The basic of the security are the rules on API, not on the UI. Nevertheless, we could configure it because that is an inevitable part of the application. Here's the tabs, say tab 1 and tab 2. Let's add some component on tab 2, that would be just the text. All right, here we see 2 tabs, and I could configure the rules, the visibility rules on the tab. Could be visible for authorized users only, that one, or that would be visible for everybody, and the first tab with the table would be visible for authorized users only. All right, let's check. The authorized users see both, and if we log out, I would see only second tab. Additionally, I could configure the visibility rules of the section. That section is visible for everybody. That section. Let's add another text here. So, hidden section. That section would be visible for authorized users only. All right. And another one, also with the text. Not authorized users. That section would be visible for not authorized users only. Let's check. All right, not auth and text. Let's sign in. I see both tabs and the sections for authorized users. Perfect. Similar things I could do with the whole page, but there is one difference. We are configuring the authorization rules for the whole website. If we turn on the authentication authorization, the pages would be available only for authorized users, but we could change it here. The web page settings, access and security, and overriding portal security settings. If we don't override, the page would be available for authorized users only, but we could override and keep it accessible for non-authorized users only as well. All right. So here we covered user-based security on API and user-based security on web pages and on its components. And now let's dive into the role-based access and more complicated matters. First, as a user, I would love to have an access just to the objects, to the records, which are somehow connected with me. Say that would be, I don't know, my orders or my messages. So we could configure a filter. But first, let's add a field for filtering. Here would be, I don't know, an owner of the book. That would be a field type of link, a connection between the books table and the users table. So as soon as the users are stored in the app users data table, web user data structure, that would be a field type of link to web user. All right, let's add another book. That would be I don't know, the old man and the C of Ernest Hemingway, and owner would be me. The link, the field type of link stores the ID of an object, of a linked object. The ID of app user I created is my email, paveldirectual.com. All right. Here we see, yep, everything is correct. And let's assign another object to me, Pavel Directual. Perfect. Now let's configure the security on API, the filtering on API. Here is our endpoint. We go to filtering section, and here we could configure rather complex filters. We could combine them with a or. Nevertheless, just for the beginning, I would configure the simplest filter. owner equals, and here we are dealing with the fields of web user object ID. It means that the field of the object owner should be equal ID of the user, session of which is connected to that request. All right. We could test it out right from here. You see that here from testing endpoint section, we got the error 403 because there is no user session, but we could use here that field and request the API point on behalf of any user we have in the table from directual.com, that one. We have the user with that ID. Send. Perfect. We have two objects, filtered objects. So let's add that field available for reading. That is the field type of link, so we could add the fields of the nested object of the linked object available for reading. Let's test it out again. File at directual.com. Here we are. The linked object and two objects that were filtered. All right, and next let's configure slightly our data table. Here we'll add the owner. Yeah, here. And that field would be clickable. Check it out. Here we see only objects which are assigned to the user. I logged in. Here's the owner. All right, next, let's figure out how to deal with the role-based access. So we've seen how to make the endpoint non-public, and now we'll figure out how to make it visible, available only for the users with certain roles. Let's go to the database app users data table. And here we see the field roles. We could add a few comma separators, say admin and moderator. There could be 2 roles, 3 roles, even 100 comma separators. All right, now let's go to the page, that one. And here, first of all, we could configure the visibility. That's not fully secure, that's just the UI. Don't forget about it, that security is based on the API, first of all. Nevertheless, it's very useful to configure some rules on the web UI. So here, visible for authorized users only and for the users with the role, say, admin. All right, let's check it out. It works. Now, say admin user, check, I don't see it. User and moderator, perfect, it works. And similar, the basic of the security, the basis, is the endpoint. Here, we could make the endpoint accessible only for specific roles. And here, we are specifying the roles, as usual, comma separated. Admin, accessible. If we type here, say, user, the role that I don't have, check, no permissions. The general approach for that is creating endpoints, different endpoints for different roles. And if we need, say, two similar tables, usually we could copy the section and assign that end table with one endpoint, say for admin, and that table with the endpoint for, I don't know, moderator user. And here we're configuring the visibility. So that is general approach for role-based access. All right, so we covered everything about reading data, and now let's have a look how to create data, how to make post requests. So we'll add a form for that. All right, form is not configured because we haven't connected it with the endpoint. And I would create new endpoint, books, new book, create new book. That will be endpoint available for accessible for all the signed in users. One field available for reading and one field available for writing, title. All right. Let's test it out. And for that will be useful for us to see all the books. So I would add a table, get books, and I would delete that filter just to see every book, every object in our data structure, ID and owner. All right, have no permissions. Yeah, probably we need to make it available for all signed in users. All right, and the table. So we haven't saved it. Create new book, field title. Perfect. So let's create a new book. That would be Brothers Karamazov, for example. All right, here we created it. The owner is empty. And here in the API endpoint settings, we could add the additional mapping, automatic mapping, to save the user ID into the field of the object. We couldn't fake it because it happens on the API layer, and that is the part of the security. All right, saving, and let's check it again. Another book, I don't know, another one. You see that the owner, the field owner, was filled automatically. Another thing that is useful for setting up the security is the validation for the post requests. The validation is similar to filters. So here we're dealing with the fields of the object, and here we could use the fields of the user. But I would love just check that title is not empty. All right, let's check it out. Let's try to submit. Error, title is not set. So that is the security, the validation on the API level. And note that the object was not created. Now, I would love to show you the useful trick. Actually, that is the common practice, not to create the objects directly in this data structure, but use the second one, a kind of a middleware, a middle table for creating requests, then use some scenario, synchronic one for checking everything. That could be, say, check for doubles. And if everything is okay, we'll create the new object. So let's figure it out how to do it. We are creating new data structure, request. Here in the requests, I'm configuring the user. That would be the field automatically on the API level, the link to app users, web user, and the title. Book title. Additionally, I would create a few fields at once. That would be the fields that I use in the synchronic scenario to save the result of our validation in this scenario. There would be 3 fields: result, type of Boolean, true or false. True, it means success, false means fail. Then result, title, type of string, and result text. Type of string, but we could use HTML, the subtype of string. All right. Next, I go back to web app, home page. I would delete that form and add another form which creates the request. I'm creating the new endpoint right from here. Requests, new request, new request. Available for all signed in users. I would love to have the result available for reading, because synchronic API, synchronic scenario performs the logic before providing me with the response. So I would see the result in the API response if I use it synchronically. No filtering, and only one field available for writing, for post requesting title. Web user would be filled into user. And a bit later, when I create this scenario, I would connect this scenario for synchronic processing. All right. Fields that wouldn't be displayed. Book title that would be required. All right, perfect. Let's check it out. Book title, Tom Sawyer. You see, no book is appeared because we created request. So we need to process those requests. Here's the database, requests, here's our request, and I go to scenarios section and I create new scenario. Process requests. It works with the data structure requests, and I don't choose any trigger because it would be run synchronically. All right, process request. In this scenario, I would love to check if there is a book with such title or not. I would use the find objects step for that. So here I need to save the result somewhere. So I would add a context variable, that kind of a local variable for my scenario. Book ID, type of link to books data structure. The context variables are similar to the fields, but they are living just within this scenario. All right. I'm looking for the books. I save the result into the context variable book ID and search conditions that the title of the book equals title that I typed. Here to the top, that is the title of the object book, and that title is the field of the object request. All right, don't forget to add comments to make our scenarios readable. Looking for the book with such a title. If there is a book, we'll throw an error. So how to check if we find something? Context, book, and ID. So we check if the ID of the linked object is not empty, that means that there is such an object. Is not empty. If yes, that means that we have found the book, and that would be error, that there is such a book in the library, and we don't need to add another one. So we are editing the object, and here actually we save the result. Result would be false. Then result title would be error, and result text would be there is such a book in the library. All right. And if not, it means that there is no such a book and we need to add it. So adding book means creating new object. So we are creating new object in the data structure books. Yeah, owner would be user, and title would be title field by the user. All right, and here would be success. We are filling the result, result true, then result title, hooray, and result text. The book, here we could use title, has been added to the library. All right, typo library. Perfect. Publishing it, running, and then we need to add it as a synchronic scenario, both for API endpoint and configure the result displaying in the form. So we go to our endpoint, new request, and here at the very bottom, we choose that scenario for synchronic processing. All right, and here's a tip that don't forget to turn off the regular the scenario run. We didn't create any triggers, so you see, the API endpoint includes the synchronic scenario, and then go to our web app folder, form, result, process data in synchronic scenario, and here we are specifying the fields result, result title, and result text. All right, and let's check it out. So, book title. Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. Submit. Hooray. Everything is correct. Here's the new book with the correct owner. But if we try to add something that we already have, that would be an error. Submit. There is such a book in the library. So here is the approach of dealing with a middle structure of this requests structure. So here is the top level overview of the security. Oh, and another small thing, a bonus, how to set up a bearer authorization on the API. I would love to demonstrate it with webhooks. Actually, there is no significant difference between API endpoints and webhooks. Nevertheless, that's just for the illustration. We are creating the new webhook that is an API endpoint for post requests. That would be a test webhook. Here's the URL where we could send the objects, post objects. Usually webhooks are used for, I don't know, payment systems. You could easily get the updates from the payment systems like Stripe and process it. Let's have a look how to work with it. So we created the webhook. We have the new integrations webhooks data structure. Here is it. The first object is just the check of the webhook. And now we could check it manually. I would use the software named Postman. That is a lovely software for testing out the APIs. So I'm creating new request that would be post request to our webhook URL. And the body would be something like bar. All right, send result null status okay, and we see the new object. That is the body of our request, headers, and URL data. And now I would love to configure the synchronic response, custom synchronic response. Usually that is needed when such systems as WhatsApp or VK requires the custom response for their webhook requests. And that would be a lovely example to configure the bearer authorization. So I choose here the bearer token. The token would be, I don't know, hello world. That is a kind of a password. So let's try it out. I send the bearer token. The response is 200. Okay. And here we could find that password here, authorization bearer hello world. And now let's create a scenario for processing the token. Here is our scenario for webhook processing. It was created automatically when we created the webhook. First and foremost, I'm deleting the triggers because I would use it as scenario synchronically. All right, save. And now I would love to extract the data from the webhook, the information about the token, that one. Where we are, all right, here. Yes, authorization, bearer token. So I would use the JSON parsing step. As usual, I'm adding the context variable where I would store that extracted data, token, type of string. Then I use JSON step. Here I need the schema. So I copy JSON here and paste it here. And now I could parse the data according to that JSON schema. The JSON data is stored in the headers field, headers, and here I could choose authorization, extract it and save it to our context variable token. All right. Let's add some comments. Extract token. And the condition. If that token equals bearer and our password, that means that everything is okay. If it is equals, that would be the step named API response. That step allows us to create the custom response for the API request. That would be just okay. All right, and if not, let's add comments as well, as usual. Okay, and error. If password is not correct, we would say 403 means access denied, and bearer is incorrect. All right, publish, run, and now we go to API section, webhooks, and add the scenario for synchronic processing here on the webhook. All right, and now let's test it out once again. Send, okay, status 200, okay, but if we change our token, say just hello, send, bearer is incorrect, 403, forbidden. So that is the way how to deal with the synchronic API responses. So we covered the first part, and the second part would be more practical. Dmitry would expose, would lay bare the cool practical things, the examples. So, Dima, are you here?
Yes. Hi, friends.
Right.
Okay.
I stop the screen sharing and you could share the screen. Welcome.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Dima. I'm founder of the CodeWord Agency, and yes, it works. Okay, so let's start. At the first, a little information about me and our team. We have been developing complex applications on Directual for the last three years. Yes. If you have any questions about our projects, about our applications, you can send me email or you can send me message via Telegram. Let's start my topic. The main problem with any application security is the human behavior. People create simple passwords. Often people choose the same passwords and logins for different services. These habits help fraudsters gain access to users' accounts. And today I will show you only two simple tricks, and this will help the protection for your applications. Okay, let's start. This is Telegram Messenger, and our first case, we notify the user about a new session, and we send a request about new session. Type my login and password, and I receive information about new session. Okay, it is my session or something gone wrong. Okay, push the button. We see that we have an access to our application. Okay, let's check how it works. I need to add one additional field. Its name roles with dash. See how our front works. Okay, at this we have different sections. This section available only for the user with send approve role. And in this section, we see our question. Who are you? Okay. This is scenario. This scenario works by user session and triggered by new object. At the first step, we check context variable. Send approve. It is only for our demo. You can delete this step and go to the next step. We set in our additional field users roles. I add a basic JavaScript operation. Okay, in this additional field, we set the main roles. After this, we set in the main role our special role, send approve. We can see that send approve. Okay, next step, we need send socket for refreshing our page. Okay, and the last step, it is a Telegram step. We send message with text, new session, and two buttons. You can change this step to, for example, you can send a request via Discord or something else. It is not matter. Okay, repeat our actions and see how it works in Dynamics. Sign in. by my account, I see that a message. You can see that in this object, my web user change role by on sent approved, and in my additional field, I save my main roles. Push this button. Okay, we see that all works, and we can refresh our user and see that our main roles has been recovered. Let's look how it works after send request that it is me. At the first step, I recover my role from my additional field. At the second step, I clear this additional field and I send a socket for refreshing a page. Let's trying to add a new user session. In this case, I push another button. Yes. Okay. We show different information and logout user. How it works? At the first step, if we send request that it is not my session, we need to create new password for user. And we need to find this problem session. In my case, I sent it this session via a Telegram button and add for my user new role enemy. If user has a role enemy, he see a hint with title access denied. We send a request that password was changed, and we send user session in a different link scenario. We delete this session, and after this, we recover our roles, user roles, and set up a new password. Clear roles from additional field and refresh page. Okay, it is the first way how you can improve your your protection. We send user a request, and user can choose that it is session from his authorization or somebody trying to connect the account. Okay, see another type of user validation. In this case, we will send one-time password. Okay, let's check our scenario. The first step, set new random number, save rows into additional field. We set a new role, check secret. We refresh user page, and we send new secret. Okay, let's check our user. we see that role changed, and we save our main roles in additional field. Okay, this role check secret, we need to add new form, and in this form we need field for writing, and we need to validation rule mapping web user in our field. Okay, scenario, we send this request new data structure, we check action, this action set as default value, check secret, and after this, we check secret from our form, send correct password. You see that it's work perfect without any problems. Let's try to create new request with a wrong one-time password. We see that password is not correct. Let's see that secret from form is different than secret from user. We can send one more time and see that incorrect one-time password that can improve security for your users and your content.
Thank you, Dima, for the marvelous demonstration. I believe that the two-step verification, two-step authorization would be very useful for a lot of applications. So we'll post the recording of the webinar tomorrow. Also, I'll ask Dmitry to share the snapshot of the application that he demonstrated, and you'll be able to play with it, to plunge into the scenarios that Dima demonstrated, and to figure out everything in the calm ambience without any fuzz. So if there are any questions, feel free to ask them on our community on Discord. We are always ready to help you. Thank you for the attention. Take care.